Hi, everybody. I'm Gloria Moraga. This is the Political Woman Podcast. Wanted to share some insights, some of my thoughts about Jack Smith, Special Prosecutor, who resigned a week or so ago and who issued his final report. Now, it's a massive report, and we've only received publicly the first half. The first half is on the effort to thwart the 2020 election. And that is something that President Trump, then President Trump, then ex-President Trump, and now soon to be again President Trump, attempted to do with his cohorts. And the reason that it's still very important to all of us is that right now on Capitol Hill, confirmation hearings are going on. And his second pick, first pick went. Matt Gaetz went. But second pick, Pam Bondi. She is an election denier. She refused today, and it's Wednesday, she refused to say that the 2020 election wasn't stolen. They tried and tried, Democrats, to get her to admit that it was a fair election, and she wouldn't do it. And this is the woman who wants to be, and is most likely going to be, our next Attorney General. And our Attorney General is responsible for upholding the laws in the United States. And we are in big trouble, my friends. It's important that we take note of Jack Smith and his writings. Here's my point. Right now, we are in this digital age. We're in this social media age. We're in this misinformation age where everybody, people who have no business ever being on television, get onto their phones and post and have millions of followers. And I don't want to just disparage everybody, but some people are just dumb, and they're spewing their lies, and they're spewing their hate, and people believe them. People believe them. So I don't have a big following on social media. I'm not huge. I'm not an influencer, even though people like me on TikTok, which is not going to be, go dark any minute. Jack Smith should have presented something live. Don't take questions if you don't want to, but he should have read or done something on social media with his report, with his first half of the report. Now, it was hand-delivered. Here's the document. I've showed you the document. At the beginning of the document is this letter. I'm going to just read that letter, and then maybe at another time I'll get into the report deeper. But for now, this podcast, this post, is going to be me reading Jack Smith's words, and I wish to hell he had done it himself. He had read these words himself. It just gives you an insight into what he was up against and what we were all up against, and how we were late. Yes, we were late because of Merrick Garland. So I'll begin. Dear Mr. Attorney General, in the fall of 2022, former President Donald J. Trump was a subject of two separate criminal investigations by the Department of Justice. The first was an investigation into whether any person violated the law in connection with efforts to interfere with the lawful transfer of power following the 2020 presidential election. The second investigation focused on the possession of highly classified documents at Mr. Trump's Mar-a-Lago social club following his presidency. On November 15th, 2022, Mr. Trump declared his presidency to unseat President Joseph R. Biden Jr., who had previously stated his intention to stand for re-election. Mr. Trump's announcement created a highly unusual situation. in which the department, an agency within the executive branch headed by President Biden, was conducting criminal investigations regarding his newly declared challenger, based on long-standing recognition that in certain extraordinary cases, it is in the public interest to appoint a special prosecutor to independently manage an investigation and prosecution. You, as the Attorney General, promptly did so here to underscore the department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters. And that's a quote from Attorney General Merrick Garland, remarks from the appointment of a special prosecutor in Washington, D.C., November 18th, 2022. So that's basically within the letter, but it's a footnote. Back to Jack Smith's letter. On the day I was appointed, I pledged that I would exercise independent judgment, following the best traditions of the Department of Justice, and conduct my work expeditiously and thoroughly to reach whatever outcome the facts and law dictate. With the aid of an outstanding team, that is what I did. Upon my appointment, I organized a staff of experienced career federal prosecutors, and together we conducted the investigation and subsequent prosecutions under our mandate, consistent with the department's traditions of integrity and nonpartisanship that have guided us throughout our careers. Attorney General Edward H. Levi, who assumed the department's helm in the wake of Watergate, summed up those traditions best. And here's a paragraph and a subquote. One paramount concern must always guide our way. This is the keeping of the faith in the essential decency and even-handedness of the law, a faith which is the strength of the law and which must be continually renewed, or else it is lost. In a society that too easily accepts the notion that everything can be manipulated, it is important to make clear that the administration of federal justice seeks to be fair and impartial. And this was an address to the Los Angeles County Bar Association in Los Angeles, California, November 18th, 1976. Attorney General Levi's remarks, shared 46 years to the day before my appointment, ring true now as they did then. Do you see how important this is? Do you see about following the rule of law and how important it is to Jack Smith, but how important it is to this country? And I fear that this is going to be lost under the likes of Pam Bondi and Donald Trump and all those crooks, because he is our felony president. Back to Jack Smith. Quote, I have been a career prosecutor in local, national, and international settings over the last 3 decades, working shoulder to shoulder with hundreds of prosecutors in that time. The prosecutors and staff of the special counsel's office are, in my estimation, without peer in terms of accomplishments, capability, judgment, and work ethic. More importantly, in my book, they are people of great decency and the highest personal integrity. The intense public scrutiny of our office, threats to their safety, relentless, unfounded attacks on their character and integrity did not deter them from fulfilling their oaths and professional obligations. They are intensely good people who did hard things well. I will not forget the sacrifices they made and the personal resilience they and their families have shown over the last 2 years. Our country owes them a debt of gratitude for their unwavering service and dedication to the rule of law. Without pause, they have upheld the department's commitment to the impartial and independent pursuit of justice. For that, I am grateful, as I know you are as well. Staffed by some of the most experienced prosecutors in the department, my office operated under the same department policies and procedures that guide all federal prosecutors. The regulations under which I was appointed required that we do so. Then he cites case law, and our work benefited from those processes. The department has long recognized that proceeding with uniformity of policy is necessary to the prestige of federal law. Robert H. Jackson, the federal prosecutor, April 1st, 1940. That's a quote. As a result, throughout our work, we regularly consulted the Justice Manual, the department's publicity available guidebook on policies and procedures and adherence to its requirements. Our work rested upon the fundamental value of our democracy, that we exist as a government of laws and not of men. John Adams, Novaevangelist, and then that's a quote from John Adams, March 6th, 1775. We are a government of laws and not men, comes from John Adams. In making decisions as special counsel, I considered as a first principle whether our actions would contribute to upholding the rule of law and acted accordingly. Our committed adherence to the rule of law is why we not only followed department policies and procedures, but strictly observed legal requirements and dutifully respected the judicial decisions and precedents our prosecutions prompted. That is also why, in my decision-making, I heeded the imperative that, quote, no man in this country is so high that he is above the law. And that's a quote from the United States versus Lee, case law, 1882. Jack Smith goes on. Simply put, the Department of Justice's guiding mandate, which my office strove to uphold, is that power, politics, influence, status, wealth, fear, and favor should not impede justice under the law. Could you just cry? Quote, when I assumed responsibility for the matters you assigned me, I came to the work with no preconceived notion of what the just outcome of the investigations would be. I was not yet familiar with all of the relative facts and not yet researched the relevant law. Depending on what the investigations revealed, I was equally comfortable closing the investigation or moving forward with prosecutions in one or both of the matters, having done both in high-profile matters throughout my career. To make prosecutorial determinations, my office gathered relevant evidence and examined whether the evidence established violations of federal criminal law. In doing so, I was guided by the principles of federal prosecution, a series of considerations designed to promote the fair and even-handed application of the law. As set forth in my report, after conducting thorough investigations, I found, with respect to both Mr. Trump's unprecedented efforts to unlawfully retain power after losing the 2020 election, and his unlawful retention of classified documents after leaving office, the principles compelled prosecution. Indeed, Mr. Trump's cases represented ones in which the offense was the most flagrant, the public harm the greatest, and the proof the most certain. And he's quoting, that's from Jackson, the federal prosecutor. That's the document that quote is from. He goes on to write, as directed by the principals, I made my decision in these cases without regard to Mr. Trump's political association, activities, or belief, or the possible personal or professional consequences of a prosecution for me or any member of my office. And then he quotes Justice Manual and the number, quote, the likelihood of an acquittal due to unpopularity of some aspect of the prosecution or because of the overwhelming popularity of the defendant or his cause, or the converse, were not factors in my prosecutive decisions. My office also adhered at all times to the department's policy against interfering in elections. As a former chief of the department's public integrity section, it was important to me, as it is to you, that we adhere to both the letter and spirit of this policy. I can assure you that neither I nor the prosecutors on my team would have tolerated or taken part in any action by our office for partisan political purposes. Throughout my service as special counsel, seeking to influence the election in one way or the other, or seeking to interfere with its outcome, played no role in our work. Our office had one North Star: to follow the facts and law wherever they led, nothing more and nothing less. And then he goes on to quote, and this might be my favorite quote. While I relied greatly on the counsel, judgment, and advice of our team, I want it to be clear that the ultimate decision to bring charges against Mr. Trump was mine. It is a decision I stand by fully. To have done otherwise on the facts developed during our work would have been to shirk my duties as a prosecutor and a public service. After nearly 30 years of public service, that is a choice I could not abide. I love that, but I also love this. It is equally important for me to make clear that nobody within the Department of Justice ever sought to interfere with or improperly influence my prosecutorial decision making. The regulation under which I was appointed provided you with the authority to countermand my decisions, but you did not do so, nor did the Deputy Attorney General or members of your staff ever attempt to improperly influence my decision as to whether to bring charges against Mr. Trump. And to all who know me well, the claim from Mr. Trump that my decisions as a prosecutor were influenced or directed by the Biden administration or other political actors is, in a word, laughable. How much do you love this man? He's taking full credit and he's taking full blame. And that Pam Bondi right now is refusing to say whether or not she's going to go after Jack Smith or Liz Cheney. She changed the subject. And right-wingers and MAGAs are applauding her and saying, oh, you really told Adam Schiff off, our new senator from California. No, she didn't. No, she didn't. She's saying she might thwart the law and go after people like Jack Smith, public servants who are doing their job. Okay? Liz Cheney was doing her job. And for her to refuse to say it, oh, no, but the Senate's going to go ahead and confirm her. Just like I don't know how many years ago, they went ahead and confirmed Clarence Thomas. They went ahead and confirmed these other crooks. It's lawmakers are not doing their jobs. Jack Smith did his job, and we should all be thanking him for it. So, the laughable sentence I love, and the letter, the 4-page letter to Merrick Garland that's at the beginning of the Trump document that outlines that Trump did break laws. It's just the investigation had to stop because people in America don't vote. You know why Trump won? People stayed home. People stayed home. And shame on you. Shame on you. It's on you too. It's just not on the people who voted for Trump. It's on the people who didn't vote at all. Back to the final letter, and these are the final couple of paragraphs. Quote, while we were not able to bring the cases we charged to trial, I believe the fact that our team stood up for the rule of law matters. I believe the example our team set for others to fight for justice without regard for their personal costs matter. The facts, as we uncovered them in our investigation and as set forth in my report, matter. Experienced prosecutors know that you cannot control outcomes, that you can only do your job the right way for the right reasons. I conclude our work confident that we have done so, that we have met fully our obligations to the department and our country. Accompanying this letter, I'm providing you a confidential report explaining the prosecution or delineation decisions reached by the special counsel